five aggregates of body and mind, either inside the body and mind, behind them, or their invisible owner. Now let's examine each of these two positions in turn, starting with the first one, the position which asserts identity between the self and the aggregate, which regards the aggregates as the self. Then we'll deal later with the other position. Now we can show that the aggregates are not self by viewing them in the light of the four ideas we just laid down as implied by the concept of self: permanence, simplicity, unconditionedness, and being subject to control. First, the self is taken to be a lasting, enduring entity. But the five aggregates, as we saw, are all impermanent. The bodily form is a mass of vibrations, a current of material groups, always arising and passing away. The mind also is a series of momentary occasions of awareness, feeling, perceiving, willing, and being conscious, also constantly arising and passing away. And there's no one behind the mental process watching it, a subject, an observer. There are just these momentary mental acts, the thoughts themselves of the thinkers. Usually we incline to identify the mind as self rather than the body, since the mind is conscious, and we think of the self as conscious. But the Buddha says that it's better to consider the body as self rather than the mind. The body at least has some apparent stability. It lasts at least to our awareness for some time. But when we examine the mental process, we see its factors changing even faster than the body. And since the five aggregates are impermanent, subject to rise and fall, they cannot be identified as self. Otherwise, it would follow that the self is arising and passing away. And so our self would become a succession of different selves, hardly the same continuous self that we take ourselves to be. The second aspect of the self-concept is simplicity, indivisibility. But when we examine the individual person, we find a complex whole, a compound of the five aggregates. We find a body, feelings, perceptions, mental formations, and consciousness. We don't find anything behind them, anything else. Each aggregate, each of the five aggregates, covers a multiplicity of elements. Usually, under the spell of ignorance, we grasp our experience as a whole. We grasp it as a single mass. And thus it appears to have some kind of solidity, to be a monolithic whole. But when we subject it to precise analysis, we find that this seemingly unified mass breaks down into a multitude of constituent parts. Every experience is just a complex or composite of the five aggregates. So what should we identify with self? The body? The body is a mass of cells, tissues, organs, skin, bones, and so on. So which of these is the self? Feeling? But feeling is of different kinds: pleasant, painful, neutral. Feeling arising through eye, ear, nose, tongue, body, or mind. Perceptions are different. The mental formations are different. Consciousness is always different. So which of these is to be identified as self? Whatever we choose turns out to be impermanent, so it can't be taken to be self. The third aspect of the self-concept is the notion of being unconditioned, self-subsistent. But when we examine the five aggregates, we find that they're all conditioned phenomena. They arise through conditions. They don't exist by themselves. The body, with its sense faculties, arises from the sperm and the egg. It arises from father and mother. It gains its being from the bodies of the parents. And the father and mother also, they gain their being from their parents, and so on, back to infinity. So no body exists through itself. Then the body continues to exist through food. It's a flowing metamorphosis of rice, potatoes, vegetables, meat, fruits, sweets, and so on, coming in at one end, flowing out through the other. It's supported by air, water, and sunshine. Then the mental side. The mental process is conditioned by the body. Consciousness doesn't exist by itself, but it exists as a series of states of consciousness. And each of these moments of consciousness arises with some material support, supported by the physical organism. Visual consciousness arises dependent on the eye and on visible forms. Hearing consciousness depends on the ear and on sounds. Touch consciousness or body consciousness depends on the physical body and tangible objects. Even thought consciousness arises depending upon the organ of thinking, the brain, and upon the nervous tissue. Feelings, perceptions, volitions, all these too are conditioned. None of them has an independent existence. And so no aspect of the five aggregates is unconditioned. Then the fourth aspect of the self-concept is being susceptible control to the exercise of mastery. If something is truly our essence, truly ourself, we must be able to bring it under our domination, to exercise mastery over it. But we find the five aggregates can't be subjected to our volitional control. We can't command them or bend them to our will, since they depend on outer causes and conditions, which are external to ourselves, beyond our control. And therefore, since they depend upon outer conditions, we can't master them. This is the Buddha's argument in the first discourse, in the second discourse that he gave, right after the teaching on the Four Noble Truths. He said to the monks, if the five aggregates were self, they wouldn't lead to affliction, they wouldn't lead to suffering, and we would be able to control them. So we could say, may my body and mind be thus, may they not be thus, may they be the way I want them to be, may they not go contrary to my desires. But we can control the five aggregates in this way. The five aggregates lead to affliction, they lead to suffering, therefore the five aggregates are not self. If the body was truly ours, we'd be able to say, may my body always be young, healthy, beautiful, and immortal. May it not become old, may it not become sick, may it not be ugly, may it not die. If the